Good afternoon, Brown community, and everyone else tuning in today from wherever in the world you may be. It is my enormous honor to welcome you to the 9th in our series of Brown Fashion Week Talks, which are being broadcast live from the campus of Brown University here in historic Providence, Rhode Island. I'm Sasha Pinto, the president of Fashion at Brown, and today we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because we're speaking with Olivier Rousteing, who is, without a doubt, the most fascinating and relevant person in the fashion industry today. He describes himself as not the typical creative director of a fashion house, and in the process, he's disrupted luxury fashion and revolutionized the historic house of Balmain. The youngest creative director to lead a Parisian fashion house since Yves Saint Laurent himself, Olivier's explosive success began at the age of 25 when he took over at the helm of Balmain. He was raised in Bordeaux and studied fashion at the renowned Mode Fashion Institute in Paris, and then moved to Italy at age 18 to work for Roberto Cavalli as an intern, rising swiftly through the ranks to the position of designer for their men's and women's pret-a-porter collection. 5 years later, an opportunity arose to return to work at Paris at Balmain, and Olivier joined them as a member of the in-house design team for just 2 years before being named creative director in 2011. As creative director, Olivier has reached into the rich archives of the company for inspiration while being moved by the dynamic evolution that his generation has witnessed in art, communications, popular culture, and music, all of which is being carried forward by his celebrated Balmain army, clad in clothes that carry a message of the future. Olivier speaks to a savvier and younger audience than the brand did prior to his arrival, and he's been a beacon of inclusivity in the industry, which he's woven into the brand's universe through collaborations with accessible labels like H&M and Nike, bringing the modern spirit of his Parisian runways to main streets around the world. So, suffice it to say, Balmain has undergone a renaissance with Olivier at the helm. So won't you please join me in welcoming the wildly popular visionary and creative director, Mr. Olivier Rousteing. Hello, Olivier. How are you? Welcome to Brown Fashion Week.
Thank you so much. It feels really an honor for me to be part of it, really.
Well, it is a huge honor for us. And let me just start by saying how incredibly generous is it you to be here at Brown Fashion Week. We really appreciate it.
Honestly, it's my pleasure. Really, thank you again.
And I know you had a pretty busy week with your fall 2021 collection debuting last Monday at Paris Fashion Week on the fabulous Air France planes. And the other day, I heard you speak with Vanessa Friedman and that powerhouse lineup at the New York Times. So, wow, Olivier, thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. I'm sure you could probably use a little relaxation at this point.
No, you know, like fashion is passion. So obviously, like even if it's Sunday, there is no any more days. And obviously, with what we are going through right now with the pandemic, we kind of forget what is Monday or what is Sunday. So, but it's really my honor and my pleasure to be part of this conversation with you.
Oh, well, absolutely. And we feel just so privileged. And Olivier, let me just introduce you to the students you'll be chatting with today. Lynn, 𝐁𝐿ang and Kasia 𝐀𝐿, who are the heads of the Fashion at Brown design team and busy finishing their collections for our virtual runway show in a few weeks. And Lynn is a senior studying computer science with a focus in algorithms and visual computing, who has been pursuing his love of design since his sophomore year at Brown. And in his spare time, he's a passionate cook, artist, silk screener, and rock climber. Wow. And our other design head is Kasia 𝐀𝐿. She's a Polish textile artist and designer in her final year at the Rhode Island School of Design, working in areas of weaving, knitting, and sculptural installation. And along with her textile thesis, she is also curating an exhibition at the 𝐁𝐑𝐿 Gallery and is passionate about cooking and writing. So with that, let's welcome Lynn and Kasia to the Zoom stage. Hello, Lynn and Kasia.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, fabulous. Now that we're all here, I will sign off and leave you to get started. So thank you again, Olivier, and bye for now, everyone.
Welcome, Olivier. It's so much of an honor for you to join us at Fashion at Brown's Fashion Week. Recently, you just had your fall 2021 collection. How was that experience so far?
really exciting experience because, as you know, we couldn't have an audience in Paris due to the COVID, to the pandemic. So it was exciting because we need to push our creativity in a different level because we did a video, as you know. It was weird because when you're a designer, you need to have a public, you need to have the emotions, you need to have the claps, you need to have the love, but we couldn't. So it was another way of showing our shows with this video, as Sasha said, in the Air France hangar at the airport. And I would say it was really exciting.
What was it like collaborating with the film director?
Intense and exciting again at the same time, because usually when you do a normal fashion show, a normal catwalk, you are almost, you own your show, you know, it's your show. When you give your fashion show, your collection to someone, the director of the movie, you know that he can twist your collection in a different way. So you need to make sure that you are you have the same vision, you share the same vision, to make sure that what you want to express is not only anymore about the clothes, but it's about more the vision of the show. And so you need to have the director that you really believe in and that you know he will be really good at translating your vision.
Yeah. No, that must be, I really loved watching the video I saw it on Instagram so far. It was really beautiful. I loved how the models were like, that shot where the models are coming in from each side. But it's also beautiful to see how your designs and your approach to creative director has sort of changed over time, which actually leads me to, we're approaching the 10-year anniversary of your time at Balmain. So we wanted to start off this interview and ask you, what are you most proud of from this incredible decade of accomplishments, and how do you think you've grown as a person and as a designer? And how do you think your time here has like shifted Balmain?
I would say I have 3 points where I'm really proud of. The first one, I would say creating my Balmain army with incredible women and men that are more than just people that I love and that I dress, but people that actually kind of did a revolution in fashion. So I can mention from Beyonce to Rihanna to Kim to Kanye, different people that I really loved and that actually made a revolution in fashion, and not only. And having them as a witness of our time and dressing Balmain it's a pride. I'm really proud of it. The second point, I would say H&M, as Sasha mentioned, because when you work for luxury, it's really important to stay connected to the world and to the real world. And obviously, when I launched H&M and it was such a success, not everybody can afford a Balmain, but knowing that my world and my universe, when I was saying about H&M, I was really, really proud because luxury, sometimes not everybody can afford it. And the fact that a young generation could afford Balmain at the time, I mean, I was really proud because sometimes what is frustrating for a designer is when you cannot see so many people dressing your clothes, you know, or your accessories. And when I saw so many people loving the Balmain universe, I was really proud. And I was like, I think 26 or 27, something like that. So I feel really proud at my age to talk to so many people. And I would say the third point that I'm really proud, it's having pushed so much diversity in fashion at a time where, you know, sometimes there was a really lack of diversity in fashion. So I think I went beyond my clothes and trying to express something beyond my fashion, which was a point of view, a vision of the world more than the clothes. So those will be the 3 points of my decade at Balmain, I would say.
Yeah, and definitely when I think about your time at Balmain, I always see that it's like pushing the boundaries of fashion, whether that's the diversity inclusion, the expansion of the Balmain universe to such a degree. And so I'm kind of curious, how do you approach combining like the legacy and histories of Balmain with this intent to push the boundaries of modern fashion?
It's not easy, because when you get into a house that has so much history, because Balmain started in 1945, which means that it's obviously a brand that is really old. But at the same time, coming with my youth and my vision, I try to make sure to combine, which was not easy at the time, because sometimes I feel like I was too young for such a really, I would say, old French brand. But I tried to mix it. I tried to mix my vision with what Monsieur Balmain was expressing at the time. You know, at the time he was dressing Josephine Baker, Dalida, Audrey Hepburn, so many different, Brigitte Bardot. So I could see that he wanted so much to have a really strong panel of really different women, which I always loved as well. So I think I really decided to think like strong women of the world. That was the starting point. And from that I started my own vision, my own story.
Wow, yeah, it's definitely interesting to think of all the legacies of the house and sort of how that influences everything and how everything is like so connected. We actually, Sasha also mentioned your time working at like the Italian fashion brand Roberto Cavalli, and something that probably a lot of us in the audience already know. Like, I feel like each fashion capital has such a different sort of aesthetic. Like, if you look at French versus Italian fashion, it's a completely different world. So we wanted to ask you, do you think your time working for Roberto Cavalli has brought in maybe those Italian influences into your leadership in like a French fashion house? And how do you think it's affected your creative vision?
I think Italian companies are really good at merchandising commercially products and making sure that I would say from a fashion show, you get the real declination, if I might say, of a product. Maybe there is a vision and after there is the product. And I think this is really what I learned from Cavalli. It's the idea of there was a strong vision, how you can translate it to a commercial pieces and putting in a showroom and sell to the clients. And this is the strength for me of Italia. It's always this really strong point of view, how you to translate the strengths of a fashion show to a real commercial aspect. And this is something that I learned. And on top of that, Italy has the best manufacturers, from leather to, I would say, accessories, everything you can find in Italy. So I learned print, for example, all of that. I learned so much about manufacturers, suppliers there. So I came back to France with a really strong knowledge of how to do things. But my vision is obviously more French because I'm French. So at Balmain, I could be maybe more couture. I could be more laboratory of couture French, you know. So I think I learned from, I would say, to how to make it really well and with quality in Italy. But my French culture is my vision of fashion.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. As a designer as well, like it's how to like synthesize all these different influences. Actually, bouncing off of what you said about all the amazing like sort of production houses or like places in Italy, I was always really drawn to the embroideries and textiles and embellishments in each of your design as a textiles major. Um, and just all like the innovation and attention to detail on like that basic like material level. And there's a quote from designers Charles and Ray Eames that I feel is really relevant to Balmain garments. The details are not the details; they make the product. So I wanted to ask you if you could talk more about sort of that attention to detail, and is that what defines couture for you, or sort of just all these layers?
Kasia, you know what? I think details define a designer. You cannot be a good designer if you don't take care of the details. because when you're a designer, you're a perfectionist and you really try to be careful of every details. You mentioned the video at the beginning of the conversation. The details of the video were as important as my clothes. So details for me is really important and are really important. And the sentence that you mentioned, it's really interesting because sometimes details can become the clothes. You're right. Because sometimes, or it's just about a cut and your jacket can be really minimal, but still is a really important detail when you make sure that your cut is perfect. Sometimes it can be the craziest embroidery and you don't care about the shape. You just care about this detail that is really intriguing that you want to watch and understanding and being sometimes like curious and you don't really understand. I mean, details can be everything and nothing at the same time. But the reality is that when you're a designer, for me, details are the most important thing. From my campaign, from my clothes, from my models, because you build with many different details, you build what we call, for me, a universe. And I think this is how I build Balmain, because the details of my celebrities, the details of my clothes, the details of my fashion show, my campaign, everything that was so, I was trying to be so into all those details that this is what becomes the Balmain universe. If you're not taking care of your details, there will always be something wrong. So that's my vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Especially when you pay attention to so many details, like there's such an emotion, passion, and description that really comes through in the work. And one thing I think about often is the models themselves as well. And you mentioned that models are definitely important towards creating this Balmain universe. So I'm curious, who is a Balmain person? What do they stand for? What are they like? Who are you designed for?
My God, Lynn, your question is huge. I design for an attitude more than a person. Mm-hmm. I design for people that believe in themselves and push boundaries no matter what. Like, as I told you, you know, I dress so many different women and men in my world, but the common point that they have, it's that I would say they are confident. And I think I dress people to get confidence, or I dress people because they are confident and they have something to say to the world. I dress my First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron. I dress Beyonce. I dress Kim. I dress Claudia Schiffer. It's all women that I feel have so much to say to this world. So I think Kasia asked me something really important, the details. But after, when you take care of your details, one after the other, that becomes an attitude. Mm-hmm. So whatever the jacket's gonna be that you're gonna sketch or that you're gonna create, there are gonna be so many details. But why do you sketch that for? What is your message at the end? And my message is attitude. When you wear a Balmain jacket, when you wear a Balmain dress, you feel powerful, you feel strong, and you feel confident. And so I would say this is my answer.
Wow, I love this visual image of a universe just filled with all these confident and powerful people. And sort of building off of that, we've kind of touched upon this topic a little bit, but the Balmain army has so many, like you said, confident and powerful, driven people from a lot of different creative industries. There's musicians, influencers, dancers, models, even I think Neymar, and the list goes on, which is such an incredible interdisciplinary community. So I wanted to ask you, how has your connection with all these different people from all these different backgrounds informed your creative expression and the way you design?
I never dress someone that I don't believe in. I want to make it clear because sometimes this question comes a lot with journalists where they are like, oh my God, but so many celebrities wear Balmain. And I say yes, but people that I really do care and their vision is something that I could share. So it's always really spontaneous. There's nothing that is fake or whatever. So when I dress someone, a celebrity that you're mentioning, it's because I believe it's bringing something really new and strong to the world. Giving you an example, when you mentioned Neymar, I think Neymar is kind of the revolution of a new version of a soccer player, because we know so many iconic soccer players, but when Neymar came on the scene of being a soccer player, it was a really new way of seeing a man that was maybe opening more with his social media, a different kind of vision of what could be a soccer player, you know? So when I dress my first lady of France, is because I really believe in what she does. So I really need to have a connection with them. And I had the chance when I dressed Kim, for example, I mean, I met her 7 years ago at the Met Gala. She was really shy. I was really shy. We didn't know each other well, and we just get along so well. And after we become best friends, and I was like, I want to dress you, and she wanted to dress my clothes. So, you know, it's really spontaneous.
And another huge character in the Balmain army is Rihanna, for example, right? She's a huge character in the army, and she's also a good friend of yours.
Rihanna, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Has the way she's displayed her work in Savage X Fenty's shows informed you of your presentation style at all? Did it inspire the choreography that was in your 75th anniversary show at the Seine?
I love Rihanna, and I have to say that she made me love fashion so much. When she did my campaign, I think it was in 2013 or 14, I don't remember. But I was so proud to bring music with fashion at a time where fashion sometimes didn't watch music or didn't look at music the same way that they do today. So I was really proud in 2014 or 13, I don't remember. That's why I get old. But I was so proud. If you ask me my 75 years anniversary, the 75 years anniversary of Balmain, if I am 75, I mean, the best doctor ever. But
looking stunning for it.
It didn't connect. It was not supposed to be inspired by Rihanna. It was supposed to be, I'm going to tell you exactly the story. There was a pandemic, and they still, but a really strong moment in France where you couldn't do a fashion show. So I decided to put my models on the boat and to give a fashion the meaning of inclusivity, because I wanted to do something outdoors where all the public from Paris that were on the Seine, on the river, could watch my show and enjoy Balmain. So that was the point. The point was to open my show and Balmain story to the world and to all the Parisians that were outside and could watch it along the river. But again, as you ask me, I'm really inspired by Rihanna, and she taught me so much. I learned so much from her music videos, from her performances, from her style. So, of course, she has been an inspiration for me for many collections.
Yeah, and just going back to your show on the Seine, you've always been at the forefront of all things social media and fashion as well. And the Fall 2020 Couture show was one of fashion's first forays into the TikTok platform. What was that experience like?
Oh, you know, it's a bit controversial because fashion, sometimes they don't like to open the fashion industry to new platforms. They wonder if is it chic, if is it chic, if is it right, modern. They're always kind of scared of new in a weird way, of newness. But me, I liked a lot, because I'm going to give you an example. When I started Balmain, I was 23, and not many young people knew the name of Balmain. So I wanted to make sure during my decade and my story at Balmain that teenagers will know the name of Balmain and remember Balmain. So when you use platform like TikTok, or when I started 7 years ago with Instagram, I knew that I will start to speak to another kind of generation. So obviously, now you ask me, am I proud of showing on TikTok? Yes, I do. Yes, I am proud, because I talk to another kind of generation, and not only as a business point of view, but as well as a vision of the brand that doesn't talk to only 40 or 50 years old people, but to 15 years old people, you know? So I will keep doing that. And just to give you another example, because I want to be completely transparent, and above all, if we have a lot of students listening to us, or when I started my social media, I had the same conversation with my president 7 years ago. He told me maybe fashion cannot be on Instagram. And I was just like, why? And he's like, because fashion is to be really private, you know, it's something really intimist. And it's not so intimist, it's not so, how can I say, it's not so, intimate, you know, it's not so intimate. For me, fashion needs to talk to so many people. And that's why I was just like, I need to make sure that people will understand what I'm saying. But sometimes old generation, they don't understand the newness. So I try to convince him. And after years now, of course, it's different because he's not anymore part of the Balmain story. But I could tell him, look at social media. Now it's so important for fashion.
I think in a way, social media creates a different kind of intimacy because I was talking about accessibility, social media makes a whole different type of accessibility because anyone in the world from anywhere, from any like status can see the show. And I think it creates intimacy through like being a part of that universe and being a part of that like story, which maybe doesn't necessarily translate to generations that like didn't grow up with that online community. Which kind of leads me to referencing a previous interview you did with GQ, where you said that television series would come after Instagram as people love to be a part of a community or a part of a universe. Um, do you think has TikTok and the virtual communities we've built during the pandemic changed your perception of that in any way?
I think the pandemic helped fashion to be more open and to understand what is the world of inclusivity. The moment that you don't sell any more magazines, the moment that you start to build another kind of community on social media, you start to understand that you build a community with different people that you were not maybe expecting at the time, where they didn't care about social media, they didn't care about TikTok, they didn't care about Instagram, they didn't care, you know? So there, they realized that when you start to speak to the real community, to a new world, you understand that so many topics are really important that maybe they didn't care at the time. You know what I mean? So we have seen so many interesting topics happening during this year where fashion start to get involved. But if there was no social media, I'm not sure fashion will they will express their point of view. They will just say, oh, this is not fashion. No, my dear, because fashion is a platform where you can express a sense of not only community, a sense of vision, and sometimes it can become political, but fashion is a way to express. So any ways that you have to express what you believe in become really important. And I think during the pandemic, when I could see from different magazines, they start to say, oh, now we need to talk to our community, to our social media community. And they realize that social media community is not just 100 people in a room during a fashion show. The community that follows you on Instagram is a community that's going through a lot all day, all year. And we can talk about racism. We can talk about body positivity. We can talk about so many topics that I believe that social media help fashion to open their minds and to actually understand that you cannot just be me, myself, and I, but you need to open yourself to the real world. And yes, I told maybe it was JQ, I don't know, that maybe the next step will be series, because I believe that we need to be careful with social media that it doesn't become too contract. And because what we love about social media is what is spontaneous, what feels real. So the moment that it becomes something different and not as spontaneous as before, people will start to get away from that and just going somewhere else. And I believe that series can be something really new, that people want to look like the actors, being part of those stories. So this is my little prediction. But again, I cannot read the future, so.
Yeah, and you definitely talked about how the pandemic has changed fashion's perception. So I think it's also relevant to talk about your Spring Summer 21 show and the Fall 21 show. And you've mentioned that they were inspired by this vision of Monsieur Balmain in the post-war period, as well as his post-war travel. And so there's like this powerful legacy there and his ideas of how to come back stronger after a crisis. And also this deeply personal element that you've talked about the lives of your grandparents during the Second World War, who in your words were stuck in their homes, not knowing if their families were safe. And for us, at least, we had our phones. So there's this emotional connection between that period and this pandemic that we live in now. And it's so palpable. How did you tie all of these elements together in those two collections? And how have you decided that what your craft stands for is more than just fashion with all this in mind?
You know, I think the two most important shows of my life have been those last two. Because you can do a show after another one. You know, there is a fall, winter, there is spring, summer. But when I spoke to my team, when we were going through that pandemic, I say in 30 years, people would remember what happened in the world in 2020 and 2021. So I wanted to make sure that in the fashion history, as much as I can do, that people would remember, actually, they couldn't have public. Actually, they couldn't have audience. So why do they talk about traveling? Because we couldn't. Because we were all forced apart and we couldn't be together. So all of that, for me, I try to make sure that I'm the witness of my time. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that people would remember that.
Okay. And yeah, there's definitely this personal element to your newer collections that definitely make them feel so much more passionate and so much more of a community in the universe. And so I kind of want to talk a bit about your backstory as well. The documentary Wonder Boy has been such a compelling journey of self-discovery away from the glamour and social media, which, as you've called it, is creating this caricature of yourself that has like somewhat trapped you. So since that search for your own backstory, how has your storytelling at Balmain changed, and how has that influenced the designs that you create?
Oh, it changed a lot. I got more confident. You know, when you're a designer, you always play a role because you're the face of a collection, but not the face of yourself. Mm-hmm. And obviously with Wonder Boy, my documentary, I discover where I come from. I discover my origins because I'm adopted and I didn't know for 30 years where I come from. So I discovered a lot from myself and it changed me in a way that I tried really hard to please people more than myself. And now there is one sentence that I always say, which is, I would rather to be hated for who I am than being loved for who I'm not. Mm-hmm. And it sounds maybe cheesy to say that, but so many people try to please the fashion system that sometimes they lose themselves. Where me, for many years now, I just try to be myself. It's not easy because sometimes you take decisions that people will not understand. Again, when we spoke about social media, again, when you start to get muses, women or men that fashion think it's not right. But I mean, my job, your job, the people that will work in fashion, it's to convince and to keep believing and to be persuasive. I don't know, we say persuasive, convincing people that you're right, no matter what. And that's my job. That's all our job in fashion.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful sentiment to like see how that idea like connects with also um like your own story and like like using your own story. And it's just a beautiful, I think fashion can be a beautiful mode of storytelling. I wanted to sort of talk further about how you said your perspective changed over time, because in an article in 2017, you said, I don't like natural. Natural is something really, really personal, and I'm not going to give natural to people that I don't know, if you know what I mean. But since then, like we've been saying, your collections have taken from these vulnerable personal narratives, which I think is like incredible. And so like creating that like intimacy and community in fashion, like the spring summer 21 and the fall 2020 show, like Lynn was saying. um, so maybe could you talk about how has your relationship with the word or concept of natural changed over time? Do you think it's different after the pandemic again?
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. I think it depends what you mean by natural, because so many designers pretend to be natural, but it's more like a concept of a business more than a reality. I would say more vulnerable, as you say, because I'm more vulnerable. I show my fragilities, as Lynn mentioned with my documentary, Wonder Boy. I would say I'm more vulnerable. I will show the truth of being a designer and what means to be a designer today. And I feel proud and strong enough to do that, to do so. I think it changed after the pandemic. You're right. After the pandemic, you need to deliver a message that is even stronger than before. And to deliver a message that is stronger than before, you need to get into yourself and understand what do you want to say to the world that means something to you. And yes, after the pandemic, houses that will be strong is houses that has a message. If you don't have a message and you're just a commercial product without the depth, without the strength, you're losing the game. So you're completely right about saying after the pandemic, I think everything takes more depth than ever.
Yeah,
Definitely. And even with this shift to more vulnerable and personal, there definitely remains like this connection to fantasy in your fashion that you're personally connected to. Like with the recent show, this dream of travel right now seems so much like a fantasy to me, but there's definitely that yearning and like relatability to it that I feel. And so I'm curious, what are some of your favorite places to draw inspiration outside of your own personal narrative?
Oh, I don't want to say that to because I'm talking to you guys, but I love America. I think America for me is one of the country where I'm the most inspired. Wherever I go to New York or when I go to LA, I think there is a sense of an aesthetic that is really strong and really new. And I can see sometimes French vintage designers clothes that when I go to LA, above all, when I see my friends or whatever, when we get a coffee on whatever different kind of streets, I can see how sometimes there were different designers from Chanel, Alaya, Balmain, YSL, but they twist it in such a new way that sometimes in France, I'm not used to see. And I love seeing that. And so I would say that America is one of my favorite place where I can be inspired, and I would say China as well. So those are the two countries where every time I'm traveling, I think all the countries inspiring me, obviously, but I would say China and America are the two countries that I love to go and see different kind of way of dressing that's inspiring me.
Awesome. And now we just want to move into some of the audience questions that have been asked to you. So this first one's from Rino Hashimoto. She is a student at Brown University studying comparative literature, and she's also from New York. And she asks, who are the 5 most exceptional people you know, if you can even pick them, and how have they impacted you and you them?
Oh my God. Okay, the 5 most, oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, can I say Beyonce? I was so happy to work with her on Coachella because I think, again, beyond the clothes, the message was so strong and iconic and timeless and will be part of the history and something that I believe. So I was proud. I would say Rihanna, because again, I kind of started my career having her in my campaigns. And as I told you, she taught me a lot and how to mix music with fashion. I would say Kim K, Kim Kardashian West, because I became really close to her 7 years ago. And I loved dressing her at a time where body shapes were maybe like different, you know, and I love the idea that she pushed the boundaries to show that fashion can be different and not only the same kind of standard and model that you see. And because she's a strong businesswoman. So now I say 3, just 2 more.
We can definitely end at 3 as well.
I can say that I was really happy to dress Justin Bieber at the Met Gala because I had the most fun. So, and I was with him. He was coming with me for Balmain there. So I love dressing him. And after I have hundreds of people that I love, and I'm sorry to not mention, but of course I would say that Kanye West has been a huge inspiration in fashion for me. Because I think she moved a lot the mentalities of fashion. And I would say, I think I said 5.
Yeah, no, that was definitely 5.
Definitely hard to choose amidst all the Balmain army.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for who I didn't mention. It didn't mean it. I mean, I didn't want to say something wrong, but
yeah. Yeah, this is definitely hard to choose. Our next question kind of ventures more into like almost art theory. It comes from James Cook from University of Notre Dame, but in Indiana. The question is asking, so he describes to us that artistic movements are often described in relationship to or as a reaction to the previous movements or world events, such as surrealism following the trauma of World War II or postmodernism versus modernism. Do you believe that we still are in a postmodern era, or have we moved past it? And what will fashion reaction to the pandemic once it's over be?
such a great question. You know, in a weird way, I'm really disappointed by sometimes the fashion system, because I remember when we started talking about how we'll change fashion during the pandemic, I feel like not so many houses try to change the concept of fashion shows or presenting and how you present to your client, how it's going to be in the showroom. So I feel like I'm scared sometimes that after the pandemic, for many brands, it's going to come back to what they get used to. So I think we are not in a postmodernism at all. To me, I think we are more into, again, you will have half of fashion that will try to stick to the rules of before, half of fashion that will try to do something different.
Mm.
And you will please half of the fashion crowd that doesn't want to change, half of the fashion crowd that wants to change.
Definitely.
There's
And
no,
sorry, Kasia, go ahead.
there's no right answer, and I think in a way postmodernism, we have a long way to go, because then it's fully embracing, like, taking from all these different influences instead of the more like modernist approach to just like the rules, like you said. Sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
No worries. And so one thing that definitely is causing waves in the fashion industry that needs to be changed and hopefully is changing is sustainability. So Isabel Saxton, a 𝐁𝐸 alumni who graduated in 2020 in apparel design, asks, how does sustainability ever influence your designs?
It's really, really interesting question. I think sustainability, it's a topic that is really, really difficult in fashion as a business point of view, because many suppliers that usually we work with don't really understand what means sustainability. So we need to teach them. So, you know, it's not something easy. Like, for example, I can tell you my obsession is with denim, because, you know, denim is one of the most, I don't know how we say in English, polluting the world. So
Yeah.
finding a way to make a denim sustainable is my biggest goal now in fashion, because I'm working a lot on the denim, as you know, with Balmain, and I want to make sure that we can define what is the coolest denim, the best denim, but being sustainable. So I'm working on that. It's more than it's about a supply chain. So it's not like I'm coming to the office and say I want everything is sustainable. It's a really long work, but we're working on that. We hired a lot of people in the house to help us as well to find suppliers from all around the world that understand the word sustainability. So first step is to have the people in house to help you. And after from that, you get the supply chain that will help you to become a brand that is sustainable. It's gonna take so long because unfortunately, fashion is not totally ready for that. But you know, I believe that in the future we'll be really capable to make 100% sustainable collection. Not for now, as a business point of view, but I'm sure in the future we can.
Yeah, and that's definitely so inspiring. Denim is one of my favorite fabrics to work with. So hearing this from you, it makes me so excited to see what's to come.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a long way to go, because just like textiles and fibers, there's so many obstacles to we've been so stuck in like the way of making that we've been, that it's hard to find new ways of thinking. So it's so exciting to hear you talk about that, like how passionate you are about this subject. Our next question, yeah, I mean, I feel like we could talk for a very long time about sustainability. But our next question comes from Kelsey Robelin, who's a 𝐁𝐸 Textiles senior in Providence. This is a fun one. What is something that you love that you are bad at, and what is something that you hate but that you are good at?
Oh my God. Okay, something that I love that I'm bad at, singing. Okay. Something that I hate and I'm good at. Okay, sorry, just to repeat, I'm loving singing and I'm loving cooking, but I'm really bad at it. And I hate, oh my God, what do I hate that I'm really good at? Usually when I'm good at something, I don't hate. Wait, let me check. What I hate. Oh.
Also a strong word, so maybe.
Yeah, not hate. I would say I don't like,
It's hard to hate the things you're good at, definitely.
Yeah, you know, when you're good at something, you don't like you actually like it. No, no, you can answer. What's her name? Sorry, I don't remember the name of the girl.
Kelsey.
Okay, Chelsea. What I'm good at, I usually like. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And this last question is from Olympia Scher. She is a student at Brown University who's concentrating in English. What's the most important thing that you've learned as a creative director?
All the hard questions are at the end.
Yeah, the audience really knows.
Since that I'm talking to you guys, I would say what I learned is to trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it might sound really cheesy because, you know, when you say trust yourself, believe in yourself, you know, it's always that thing. But I tell you that because it's true. Sometimes you're trying to please so much. And I think it's part of the human being to try to please, you know, because you want to be accepted for sometimes not who you are, but who you pretend to be, for being loved, for being recognized. And what I learned during this decade, and I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, the 2 first years at Balmain, I tried to be the perfect designer that pleased the fashion crowd. And after the 2nd year, I think I tried to become myself, sometimes displeasing people. And I'm going to give you examples. We spoke about social media. When I wanted a diverse casting, when I wanted to push my own ideas, I had a lot of people from fashion to actually tell me, is not right. I had people telling me that. When I was doing embroideries in a moment where fashion was minimal, they were just like, this is not a trend. This is not trendy. This is not what they call cool. And I was like, this is me. And I think if I had the chance after 10 years to be with you today and talking to you, it's just because I just been myself. And in a weird way, I didn't try to be someone else. And you have seen so many designers or brands that at the end lost their DNA and their identity because they tried to be different than themselves. So what I learned during this decade is to be myself.
Mm-hmm. And that's honestly so inspiring. And just our final question before we wrap up is,
Of course,
you said as well that change is on the horizon. People's reactions 6 years ago were completely different to today. It's completely new worlds. And thank God, it took a long time. So what do you envision the future of fashion to be post-pandemic in this new age? What do you hope will change? And do you have any other advice or wise words for students here at Brown?
Yeah. If you love fashion, don't look at only fashion. I think fashion will survive because of music, because of movies, because of series, because of the world. And I think what we went through during this last decade is because sometimes fashion has been too fashion and not trying to open the world of fashion to the real world. So I think if I can predict the future of fashion, fashion will exist because it will be close to music, it will be close to movies, it will be close to art, but fashion cannot survive just because we talk about fashion. So whoever I can give my advice to whoever, I would say, if you love fashion, love music. If you love music, love art. If you love art, love movies, love Netflix, Amazon TV, you know, Amazon Prime, whatever, like all of that, because this is what's going to be the future of fashion, being connected to a bigger platform than fashion.
Those are such beautiful words to end on. I feel like they connect to every answer for each question, like postmodern, like social media connecting everyone and everyone's stories. Definitely super inspiring. So thank you so much for joining us, Olivier. And I'm sure everyone in the audience is so like motivated now to go out and be creative and to like find their path in this world. I
You're
don't
the
think
next generation. You're the next generation. You have your power in your hand to make it happen, and it's gonna happen.
yeah, very exciting news to like end off on. I think in the pandemic sometimes it's easy to sort of get sad or like feel down, and now it's nice to find these like moments like this talk that are so inspiring. I don't think I could say thank you enough.
I can't thank you enough. It's the reason why I'm here today is because you guys inspiring me with your question. And I can tell you, like, one of the things that I'm the most proud is that after 10 years at my age, I have the chance to talk to you and in my really humble way, helping you whatever I can do. And honestly, today was really inspiring for me.
Wow. I'm glad.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Quickly to our audience members, we just wanted to say, first of all, if you haven't seen the Balmain Fall 2021 collection, definitely check it out. Definitely worth. The creative vision is impeccable. And
if you don't want to travel after that, then something's wrong.
Where have you been? Yeah. Additionally, we want to invite everyone to join us on Tuesday for our next event, the Future Fashion Journalism, with some amazing editors of the biggest magazines. Hope we'll see you there. And again, thank you, Olivier. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Couldn't have been better.
Thank you so much, really, really. It's an honor for me. And thank you, Brown University and everybody, really.